Um, so another thing I just wanted to touch on, and I guess maybe because there's so many things happening now that are, because we've spoken twice in this session regarding things going on in the world that we, need to be aware of and things we can add our energy to and everything. So I've actually been watching, well, technically watching at work, John Adams, the story of John Adams.
Yes, that's wonderful. Yeah.
And so I got to the point today where George Washington becomes president. They've got the Constitution and everything. And I just was like, wow, like we as people are so much more powerful than we think we are and capable than we think we are.
Mm-hmm.
And I just started to think about like the things that have occurred over time that we have fought for, and I just started to think like part of me feels like when you talk about how we're being complacent,
Mm-hmm.
and I just feel like over time we've lost our way. I don't know if it's because maybe things have pretty much been going our way. There really hasn't been anything huge to fight for. So maybe that's why.
Well, it comes down to the fact that the ego never makes a change. The ego wants the status quo unless it's too painful to stay in it.
Okay.
Right? Mm-hmm. And that's just the ego. So collectively, that's where we're sitting. It'll accept its grievances up to a certain point. But when it reaches that point and you push it past that point, then the ego stands up and says, I'm not going to take it anymore. What is that from that movie? I'm mad as hell and I'm not going to take it anymore.
Yes.
Network, yeah. So, and that's the story of all of it. And the story of John Adams and Washington and the formation of the country and all. You can just insert yourself as seeker into that because it's the same story, right? Getting to a place where the status quo is not okay with me. And it's going to require change, and change requires effort, dedication, commitment, and the willingness to give it all for the change. And you as seeker fall into that category. And that's what's required. That's what's required for any kind of change. And so that's what we see in the outside world. It's the same thing that's being asked of you as far as regaining, forgive the way I said it, but regaining your sense of your own divinity. It's because it hasn't been lost. You waking up to, reawakening to your own divinity requires the same thing. And who is it that comes as a seeker? Generally the person who's been pushed so hard that they have reached their limit and they're like, that's it. I cannot do this anymore. You take a seeker who's now on their path and a very dedicated path and a very dedicated seeker, but they still get stuck in a rut and they won't be able to see it and they won't be able to see it. When is it that they actually will wake up to it? When it's become so painful that they can't ignore it anymore. Same thing. It's, and that's the cycle of it. So we're seeing the same thing in the world, right? Yeah. And it'll happen on a collective level as well. If things continue to get worse and worse with our environment, let's say, at a certain point, the planet will rise up. It's not just going to be certain countries. It'll be the whole planet. If everybody is affected, let's say no one can drink the water anymore. Do you think that people would be complacent? Not anymore. If the people can't drink the water and a certain select group of people own all of the clean water, and now you're being charged for every little bit of it, and they're jacking up the prices because they know they can, don't think there won't be a global uprising, because of course there would be.
Mm-hmm.
right? Water should be a basic human right. So, and that's what we're looking at. And your point is very well taken. You have far more power than you give yourself credit for. It's just the ego is very happy if it doesn't have a reason to fight. Can I complain that today I make 20% less than I did 5 years ago? Yeah. But equally, I'll be happy I have a job. Right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Is it enough to risk losing my job over if I put up a stink? Because that's what I'm looking at. Now I look at, if I want to make a stand, I may lose it all. Right? How many egos are going to do that?
Mm-hmm.
It's only when they feel like they have nothing to lose that they'll stand up and do it.
Yeah.
And that's what we're looking at as a collective, to a T. But it is the same exact story that's playing out for you as seeker. And this is where your divine will, your conscious choice comes into play, because you can choose to not have to go to that level of pain before you go in and do the work necessary to free yourself from the pain that's going to come if you don't. That's your choice. Or you cannot. Either way is fine. It's just more experience.
Yeah.
Right. Do you ever think about it that way?
About what way? About going in before?
No, just the whole thing you brought about, from watching your TV show. Did you look at it as the greater picture of what actually is happening? No.
No, I mean, when I was watching it, I just was looking at it like wow, like look at the commitment that they have, and the
Mm-hmm.
like I just in awe of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Absolutely.
And taking something that when they had basic human rights that were being denied,
Mm-hmm.
but I guess that could be, I mean, it definitely could be applied to everything.
Yep.
Now.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of courage to take a stand against your oppressor, whomever the oppressor is.
Yeah.
Even if it's you.
That might be the hardest one.
Yes. That's right. Yeah.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm.